Professor Davis, and in this first StatCast, well, we aren't going to do any statistics. We're just going to talk about some of the particulars of the graphing calculator, some of the common things that we have to know in order to make sure our computations are correct. Let's take a look at those first of the two rules. First one reads, if a fraction has more than one term in the numerator, enclose the numerator in parentheses. Now this also applies to the denominator as well. In other words, if we would ever have two terms in a denominator, we would enclose those terms in parentheses as well. Alright, let's take a look at the first example here and we can see how we can do this. So take a look at this fraction. It says to evaluate the expression 8.5 minus 7.1 over 1.5. So let me pull up my calculator and we'll get to work on that. So we'll just first hit the left parenthesis. We have to enclose the numerator in parentheses. There's two terms in it. And then we'll put in our numbers here, 8.5 and then minus 7.1. And then close the parentheses right above the 9. You see the right parenthesis key. And then divide by 1.5. Now notice if I hit the enter key, I get the answer 0.93 repeating. Now this gives us another rule, and this is a convention in the Triola textbook. We always want to round to one more place than the given information. So notice here, in our example, our information was given to one decimal place, so we're going to round our answer to 2 decimal places here. So let's go ahead and write down the solution. So notice here that the simplified solution is 0.93 rounded to 2 decimal places. And then one more thing here. I think it might be a reasonable question to ask. What happens if I didn't put that in the parentheses? Will I still get the right answer? Well, and the answer is no. I'll just go ahead and show you here real quick. So this is kind of how not to do it. I normally don't like to show you how not to do things, but notice here if we don't have the parentheses in, we're taking the first term and then subtracting off the fraction here, 7.1 divided by 1.5, so that's why we get the wrong answer for that. So we want to make sure we include the numerator in parentheses if we have more than one term. Rule number 2. You'll see this 2 E's written on your calculator sometimes, and it's used to represent times 10 to the power of. Let me show you what I mean. In our second example here, we want to write the fraction 25 over 100,000 in decimal form. So let's go ahead and do now. I'll go ahead and put in 25 and then divide that by 100,000. And notice if I hit the enter key, notice what I get. I get this E notation. 2.5 e minus 4. That means 2.5 times 2.5 times 10 to the negative 4th power. I guess a reasonable question to ask is, how would you write that in decimal form? So yes, a lot of times we have very small numbers in statistics, in particular in probability. We don't work with large numbers too much, but small numbers we do. So notice here, if I put 0.00025 and then hit the enter key, I get exactly the same answer. So notice what we did. If we had this in E notation, this means 2.5 times 10 to the negative 4th. What did we do? We took the decimal point and we moved it 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how we can think of writing from this E notation into decimal form. All right, by moving our decimal place, the number of places given by the number after E. So when we have E and then a negative number, that means the number is very small. Like I said, sometimes we have small numbers like this. Rarely do we have large numbers. That would be in combinatorics where we have one section of that. So here's our answer, 0.0025. So those are just 2 rules, 2 particulars of the graphing calculator we need to know.